and printmaker Kat LiBretto is also the owner of Inky Hands Print Studio and Gallery, located right here in downtown Plymouth. Kat visited with Julie via Zoom to talk about the local arts community, the studio, and First Fridays.
Kat LiBretto, it is so nice to have you here today. Thank you. I want to jump right into some questions for you. You are a successful global creative presence, and lucky for us, you have ended up here in Plymouth. Can you tell me about the journey and how you ended up here?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. Um, I grew up in New Jersey, and I grew up coming to Cape Cod and Nantucket as a child and a teenager, and into my early 20s. I spent a lot of time on the South Shore, and a lot of years went by. I ended up in London. I ended up in Dallas, and it was calling me back. The ocean just kept calling me back. And in my heart, I knew I needed to be in a community, one where the arts were valued, one with a walkable downtown, one by the sea, one with small businesses, and Plymouth just really it checked all the boxes, and it felt like Plymouth kind of opened its arms up to me. It chose me in a way. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
You still, your gallery work is shown all over the world though. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It is. Yeah. Incredibly blessed and lucky with that. I went and did my master's out in London, and through that experience, I ended up working for a gallery there, and they really gave me the boost into the art world, and exhibited my prints and took me to art fairs where there were galleries from all over the world that saw my work, and it started getting collected around the world. And then another gallery in Hong Kong saw my work, and they started selling my work out there. So my work has really it's traveled the world, but it's allowed me to travel as well, and to exhibit everywhere.
And I'm sure you're like a sponge and you just take in everything from every place you are at. And it is reflected in your work, which is wonderful. Now, let's talk about Inky Hands, which is your studio. And it's not only a place that creates screen printed, beautiful pieces of work, but you also teach and you have other artists there. What have you learned from your students? What have you learned from other artists?
Well, what I've learned from my students is that people from all different backgrounds are drawn to screen printing. I've had um, chemists come in and take classes. I've had teachers, English teachers, history teachers. I've had restaurant owners take classes. It really it just speaks to a lot of people. So what I've learned is how to teach the non-artist who has the creative gene in them, but how do I teach a process to somebody with a completely different background? And it's never been a challenge. It's actually been more the connection between people with two separate backgrounds, two separate minds, two right. Our minds work completely different, but we're able to connect over this process.
Which is wonderful. Now, you literally do screen printing the old-fashioned way, correct?
Correct, correct. There's nothing automated in the studio.
Right. So it's all with your hands and your eye and your mind. And do you often end up with something different than what you imagined?
Yeah, the everything's done by hand, so including color mixing, and there's interaction with color and paper. It'll dry differently than what you've mixed. So you have to plan everything out, plan the errors to happen, plan, but that comes with experience. So what I find is with newbies is to just embrace the process and embrace these are all ways of learning. It does still happen to me, even 15 years now working in silkscreen. Um, I'll I won't factor in the way the paper is going to expand with the amount of color that's being put down on paper. So I have to rework the next layers so they all fit tightly. Yeah, so every job that comes through the door, every student that comes through the door is also a learning experience for me.
That's Wonderful. Oh, I want to see this process happening. This sounds really cool. Now, you are the organizer of First Fridays Plymouth. Can you talk about what that is and how you came up with the idea?
Sure. First Fridays Plymouth is inspired by First Fridays found all around the world in different cities and towns, specifically cities and towns that have a big artist presence or a gallery presence. And I found that Plymouth has that. We have a lot of galleries, we have artist studios, we have shops that feature local artisans, we have restaurants that love to hang exhibitions. And so I was inspired to create First Fridays Plymouth based on what I've experienced in all the cities I've lived in. It's an evening of arts and culture where these doors stay open late. So visitors can go from establishment to establishment, almost creating a gallery hopping type of evening and take in more than one exhibition. They can just move along and just be inspired by so many different pieces, so many different exhibitions, so many different artists.
Can they actually see the artists at work during this time? Are some of the artists actually doing their craft?
Some of them, I would say Jesse Fries and Eddie Murray of the art shop, they're constantly creating in their space. So they are most likely to be at work when the visitors come in. Even Maya Royal, her studio is full of her beautiful creations, her beautiful pieces, and she has a working studio. Um, my studio is located in the back, so Inky Hands has a gallery and then a studio in the back. And in the future, we'll be having some live printing and workshops, so you'll be able to see screen printing live as well.
Wow. That sounds like a wonderful evening out for not only artistic, but for the restaurants. They get involved too. Have a little cocktail, have a specialty eats to go along with your gallery hop, as you would call it. That's wonderful. The last thing I wanted to ask you is during this past year, which has been really tough on especially the arts and the creative community, what have you done differently? What have you learned, and what silver linings do you take away from this past year?
Well, this has been a really tough year. Creatively, as an artist, I found it was incredibly hard to create. I ended up focusing on the publishing side of Inky Hands. So I invited a lot of artists in and created for them. So I made prints for them. And that helped me creatively. It kept me working. It kept me printing, even though it's not my own work out of myself. It's for other people. And I think what that ended up doing for me is creating a sense of purpose through a year where so much was withdrawn from us, so much contact, and that enabled me to remain in contact with other people. It enabled me to keep creating and keep exhibiting and keep the shop open and full of new artwork.
Oh, that's great. So you pivoted your whole business plan, really, your business strategy, but you stayed involved with your passion, and you helped other people at the same time. So what a wonderful silver lining that is. And we thank you so much for being here today, Kat. This has been wonderful. Can't wait for Plymouth First Fridays. And have we had our first one?
We have.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's going to be
Yeah.
every Friday is this till October?
So we've got every first Friday until October.
Oh,
The
that's
next one
great.
up will be June. Yeah.
That's
yeah, It's a
wonderful.
lot of fun. Yeah, yeah.
Well, everyone will enjoy. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
To check out the studio and gallery, visit inkyhandsprintstudio.com or take a walk downtown and stop in.